Dear Ajit, Satish, my eternal comrades, Pine, Kaushik, and friends and comrades of Nagpur. Of course, when Comrade Ajit called me for this meeting, primarily I couldn't say no, though even after my promotion for quite some 6 years now. I have not been very closely associated with the organizational activities, though only at a hearsay or from a distance I know what is going on. Reasons more being that at the superintendent's level, initiatives are at a very mild level. We are yet in a democracy where it is run on representations and memorandums, then on real organizational methods. But when Ajit called me, immediately I said yes, primarily because of the reason that Nagpur, I have a affinity to Nagpur because here, knowingly or unknowingly, I was pushed into the central stage in 1998 when the convention was held here. And of course, those friends who are there now, I think either would have been retired or have become superintendents. And for quite some time we have worked together, Comrade Srinivas and myself. And like many other places in India, Nagpur, along with Bhilai, Bhopal and all, had been at the very core of organizational movement. So the organizational understanding of people in these parts have been much more than for say in Delhi, where there is no time or necessity for an organization, or in Mumbai where there is no time. The hectic lifestyle is different, whereas in these areas people have been more organized and they understand what is an organization, the necessity of an organization. As an organization, as an individual also, as Comrade Ajit was rightly pointing out, all of us play different roles in our life. In our life, as a person, in office, or in an organization, or the organization itself, when it comes to tackling issues pertaining to the cadre or the larger issues, when it is interacting with other organizations similarly placed within the department or outside the department in other central government employees movement, or when we interact with other persons in public life, everywhere we play different roles. We have separate expectations out of each of these roles. But unless we are very clear about what is the core of our agenda, what is that we expect, we come into conflict with our own roles. Unless we are very clear about what we are, what we want, our roles at different levels are bound to drag us into some confusion, confrontations, and we get mesmerized by the activities which we ourselves perform. And like a spider caught in its own web, we do not know how to come out of it. And my experience is that in the entire country, when we have interacted with the people of various departments at various levels, the average IQ of the officers in this department from inspectors and superintendents level is highest. But when it comes to organization, the collective IQ is very poor. And that is the reason why primarily, what in spite of being very knowledgeable individuals, very capable individuals at an office level, at a personal level, when we execute, when we are drawn into the department, what have been told? We have been told that as an inspector or as a superintendent, you should be this, you should be an accountant, you should be an auditor, you should be a doctor, you should be a chemist, you should be what all not. Is it not? But after executing all those things, when it comes to the question of collectively getting what we require, when you compare the other departments in this country, whether it is before the pay body or with respect of working conditions, when you compare ourselves with our counterparts in the income tax department, the postal department or the railways, we know how poorly we are fared, in what conditions, careless conditions we work, what all schedules are given to us, how we put up with all those things. I need not describe all those things. So why, when at a personal level, At an individual level, we have been able to do certain things. At a collective level, we have failed. The reason has been that we have not been able to submerge our individual egos into an organization which will be able to project its identity as a cadre or as an organization. We still fail it, whether it is at an inspector's level or at a superintendent level. And refusing to understand that is the primary reason why we do not fare well. So I was enamored by this topic because not only at an all India level, because at an all India level we have now a churning process going on. People feel that they are not being properly represented in the areas where they are supposed to be represented, that their aspirations are not being taken into consideration, even though at the time of elections, at the time of gaining the votes, people come and say so many things. But ultimately it doesn't translate into actual activity. It doesn't actually translate into a real benefit for the society. There is a churning process going on, particularly in the middle class of this country. And that is what we see in the uprising at the Delhi, which has taken place in last year, a new political organization coming into being, and where the central point has been regarding what is governance, how it should be done. When we look at this concept of governance itself, after he gave me the topic, I just went into what is the origin, because we know certain things, we do not bother to get into all those nitty-gritties of how it came and why. Governance has its roots in the French language. Its equivalent in English is Latin, is administration. And in both these concepts, when you say govern or administer, in both these issues there is a third party or an external influence coming into being. What do you mean by governing something? It is somebody who takes charge of something and governs it, administers it, puts in place, oversees it. This is how we see governance or administration. And precisely because of this feeling that it is an external agency, it is something from outside, there has been a very wide gap between the administered and the administrator, the governed and the governor. Because the person who governs or administers things, that he is away from those people who are being administered or governed, right? And that is the reason why at some point of time in history there have been revolutions or very great consternations leading to a cry for democracy, where people have to be involved in the process. And the democracy essentially, even after adult suffrage took a very long time to come into being. Until then it was not adult suffrage. Every adult was not permitted to take a decision of who is going to be the governor or the administrator. Only some persons who were either moneyed class or educated, by some reasons others were kept away from the mainstream. So the question of adult suffrage, that every adult is competent to have his decision, that every adult is supposed to be permitted to take a decision on who should decide on his life's course, who should decide on how he should live, what should be the parameters adopted. For this, for every adult to be allowed, itself took a very long journey in the course of humanity. And even after this adult suffrage came, we saw that this adult suffrage was a mere eyewash, because only once in 5 years people are drawn to the voting, and once the vote is cast, thereafterwards their opinion has no value. And invariably whoever comes to harness these votes gives so many promises which are not kept subsequently. This increased when the type of the polity changed, the method of political governance in this country changed, when it became multi-partied, coalition, etc., etc. At a point of time, people have understood that no promises have any value. Ultimately, it is only decided by those who have some vested interest in forming of a government and running it. So either a political class or a bureaucratic class comes into existence who decide things. It is not the ordinary man. So at this point of time,